Hi, welcome to The Connection Code, a podcast where we explore the relationships that make your life and work just a little bit better.
I'm Jeana Anderson Cohen. I've spent more than 13 years building a business that tricks adults into making friends through fitness. And I'm also building a social gathering and event space in New Buffalo, Michigan called Petite Acres. Needless to say, I'm pretty obsessed with friends.
Petite Acres is going to be amazing. And every week, I think we need to spend just like a little bit of time on its progress and development.
I'm fine.
And I'm Rachel Gilman-Rischel. I run a PR agency called 3PR. I focus primarily on better for you food because I really love this space. But I'm also in my intro era where I am tracking every introduction I make. And actually, I realized over the past 18 months, are you ready for this?
I'm so ready.
244 introductions.
Rachel, that's insane. That's introductions between two people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to be incredibly nerdy about this, it means I have to be the facilitator of the introduction. So if I just said, hey, Jeana, you should talk to Sarah, here's her email address, does not count. No. But if I say, Jeana meet Sarah, Sarah meet Jeana, and then I send this warm, generous email where I sprinkle confetti on both of you, and then you go off and connect, that is an introduction.
So that's almost 500 people who have been brought together because of you.
Great math, except some people are repeat intros. Like I have a friend named Lauren who's a travel agent, and Lauren has probably had 10 intros.
Okay, let's call it 375. Does that feel right?
I'll take it. But I am loving my intro journey. Some wonderful things have transpired. And I was talking to somebody yesterday who I'm working on a little something. We'll see if it materializes. But what I said to her is that networking is a handshake and connections are a hug. And I am really into hugging and connections.
Rachel, your metaphors will never cease to delight me. I honestly, if you don't have a notebook already where you keep track of them, I would actually be surprised if you don't have a notebook where you keep track of them. I think you should keep track of them because it's like chicken soup for the soul, or every single one of them. I'm like, this is a title. Please elaborate. Please elaborate.
Thank you. I love words so much. And sometimes things pop into my head and I just really want to articulate them.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we start every episode with a big question, and this big question actually relates to us because normally we'd be recording side by side on your cutie little couch behind you, but now we are semi-long distance. So the big question for today is, how do you maintain a long distance friendship?
A very important, very pertinent topic as you are relocated to Michigan, but to my delight, coming back in town very frequently.
Yeah, we got a great walk-in this week. So it's not, yes. I mean, we're okay. But I do think there are a lot of friendships I'm having to think a little more strategically about because there's just not as much time when I am in Chicago where a lot of my friends are.
Yes. So you posed this question, and I thought it was a really insightful one and also very relevant. I think all of us go through in our lifetime some long-distance friendship transition that we might make gracefully or we might make very reluctantly. And the thing that popped in my head first is, and I've missed this step, it's not as though I've done this perfectly, but there's an element of mourning. And I think we all often want to push it under the rug and say, it doesn't matter where you live. We're friends forever. It's not going to be geographically impacted. But that's the lie we tell ourselves. And that distance could be 40 minutes from city to suburbs, or it could be that somebody's moving to another country. But there is a proximity change taking place and a life transition taking place. And I think we're all remiss in not acknowledging that one chapter of a relationship is closing and another chapter is going to be written. And it doesn't mean that the next chapter is worse, but it will be different. And pretending otherwise, I think, does a disservice to the relationship as you're reconfiguring what does our friendship look like as we now exist in two different places than before.
I honestly feel like question answered. Conversation over.
But you did research, Jeana. You always do research.
I sure did. Well, to your point, Rachel, like Okay, I always come back to romantic relationships because I think we have so much language about romantic relationships, whereas
Yes.
like, in friendship, for whatever reason, we've neglected to remember like friendship takes work, friendship is hard, friendship changes over our lifetime, and friendships start and end, just like romantic relationships. So a lot of the same rules apply. And one of the things that go into long distance romantic relationships is when they work, you're strategic. You have a plan. You say, like,
Yes.
so this long distance period of our relationship is just that. It's a period. You have a job for right now in New York City. My job for right now is in Chicago. The ultimate goal is that you'll come back to Chicago in 2 years. When you have a plan like that, then you can sort of see the horizon and plan
Hmm.
for, okay, so over the course of 2 years, can we deal with seeing each other every other weekend? I travel the first weekend, you travel the third weekend. And you come up with some sort of like cadence. We FaceTime every night, or if we can't FaceTime, we make sure to text and say goodnight. There's obviously, you and I don't have to FaceTime every night, Rachel. I would enjoy it.
Yes.
but but there, you sort of like, I think when you're successful, you put guardrails in place and say, like, this is the communication I expect, this is how long this will be, and this is how frequently we'll try to see each other.
I think you nailed it with intentionality because
Mhm.
I think the other way that long distance friendship can go off the rails, or just maybe sort of like that slow, gradual distancing until all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah.
oh, we haven't talked in like 5 months and now it's too long
Hmm.
and it's awkward, is if you do upfront say, let's make an effort to text multiple times a week. Let's try for a Sunday walk, like a walk and talk phone call, for instance. And then let's throw a date on the calendar that we plan to see each other, whether one is visiting the other or we go on a vacation somewhere. But I think
Hmm.
by using your calendar as a really deliberate tool and putting care into looking ahead and being futuristic, it really helps the relationship. And then I had two examples I was thinking about. I have this guy friend, Mike, that I adore, and we have not lived in the same city for many years. We were friends in our 20s. And he's like, Rachel, we can do 10-minute phone calls. Like if you're in an Uber or you have this like little space in your day, just call me. And if I can answer, I will. And we'll talk for 10 minutes. And I love that because I know I'll often think I have 60 to 90 minutes of material with somebody. So I can't call this friend unless we have an hour and a half to catch up. And who really has an hour and a half just sort of sitting around? So then the call doesn't happen and then you never catch up. So the 10-minute check in, I think, is Mike's idea and brilliant. And the other thing is that I have two childhood best friends, Lisa and Lindsay. Lisa from diapers, Lindsay from fourth grade. And we have not lived in the same city in 25 years. And yet the relationship has sustained. They are like sisters to me. And I think what keeps it going, because I'm not the world's best long distance friend, is shared history. So there's always a
Hmm.
feeling of like being able to go home to each other. When I go home to Minnesota, I always prioritize seeing them. I mean,
Hmm.
unless it is a 48-hour or less trip, we're getting together and they always carve out the time to do so. And we remember the important things. We check in for birthdays. We're aware of each other's families. There's just a lot of love and connectivity that I think sustains us even when our lives go in very different directions.
Mm.
But there's also long distance failures where unfortunately some relationships have fallen by the wayside. What are
Yeah.
what are the ones that have worked for you, and are there any lessons you've learned from ones that have not worked?
Well, I think ones that have not worked is probably, 'cause I definitely am growing in my intentionality as a friend. And I'm a Sagittarius. We float around the world. I love friendship and I love learning about friendship. So that's where I think the idea of being more intentional about friendships really comes from, is just my curiosity in it. That said, I've learned a lot along the way, including like, I am also from Minnesota, as we have mentioned on this podcast. I went away to school to the University of Wisconsin, which is not that far, but I never really went home. Very infrequently did I go home. And now my parents have moved away from my childhood home. They live in Michigan too, in the same house as me. And so there's not really, for me, there's not a tie to my childhood home. So I would say my friends from childhood, from like pre-college, have gotten I think they'd all be fine with this, but they've gotten the short end of the stick. Like I just haven't prioritized those friendships because it was sort of like I was ready to get out of there. And so I
Yes.
think like I didn't put the intentionality in place of either inviting them to see me at school. But I will say there are a few of them who I've seen in person in Chicago when they come and visit. There are folks like Cassie who lived next door to me in high school. She came to visit me in Chicago with her sisters, and that was a delight. There's sort of like a contingent of folks from my hometown who know if they are in the same town as me, I will take them for a workout and then let them go along on their way,
Yes.
which is the
And
friend I am.
I think it's okay to have what we talk about seasons of friendship, and that
Yeah.
sometimes people are meant to be in your life for your freshman through senior year of high school. And sometimes people are really fun to party with in your 20s when all you want to do is go out with like high energy, up for anything people. But not every friendship has to have longevity. And that's something I've had to learn as I've gone along, that it's okay to release. But I
Yeah.
did think of something in brainstorming around this podcast, which was super interesting, which was what happened to my friendships during the pandemic. And I don't
Ooh.
know, yeah, we haven't talked about this. I don't know if this happened to you, but that was when we had this hopefully once in a lifetime experience where you had nothing but time and
Yeah.
everybody was very worried about everybody else. There was a lot of thought and care of how are people in my world doing. And it became what I called the friendship resuscitation era, where people I had completely lost touch with were like, we should FaceTime or we should Zoom or we should say hi. And so suddenly, dormant friendships that had been on ice for ages for maybe no good
Hmm.
reason except distance,
Yeah.
we were back looking at each other, catching up, and there was zero excuse. Nobody was too
Hmm.
busy. Everybody had the bandwidth to check back in. And so I felt like I went through this little renaissance period where I was like, wow, I am talking to long lost friends. And the takeaway was nobody's ever really gone. Everybody's kind of
Yeah.
just a phone call away if both people are willing to do so. And I don't really miss anything about the pandemic except people's willingness to
Time.
say, I'm still here and I still care about you and I would love to see your face and what's going on.
Mm.
And maybe that reminder that when you need to tap back in, you can.
Yeah. I think there's also the element of like low, medium, and high impact communication too.
Oh,
And there's like merit for all of them. So like pebbling, for example, like if you're the kind of person who sends memes, Instagram, TikToks to friends like the second they make you think of them, like that low impact communication does the work of saying like I am thinking about you. This I'm sending you this because I think you would find it delightful or funny or like it reminds me of this moment in our friendship. And then like medium, I think of as like voice notes. Like if like I love to send you a voice text instead of just writing down all my thoughts because I think like there's just some intimacy to that.
yes.
Um it's a for Rachel voice text. I send like a few friends voice text because I think it gives you like you're hearing them as their train of thought is on the tracks, which I think is lovely. Personal podcast, and then like high impact is that like phone call where you make time, you're you're really like booking it in the calendar. Like I'm going to call you. We are going to talk about either our agenda or we're just going to catch up. So I think like creating a mix of all of those, so that you're sort of maintaining that cadence, that steady drumbeat of communication. We know like um the number of friendship. Why am I forgetting his name right now?
Oh, you're
Dunbar's
done,
number. Oh my
bar.
God.
Yes.
Oh, I can't believe I almost forgot his name. My gosh, he's my patron saint. So Dunbar of the numbers, Dunbar number. Um, Robin Dunbar talks about the length of time that it takes for someone to essentially fall out of your friendship circles. And it's usually 3 years, by the way, Rachel. So if someone's like in your closest circle,
Yes.
and you lose total touch with them for 3 years, then they'll sort of slowly drift in your mind, in your perception, all the way out. But if you maintain that sort of cadence of communication, you can at the very least keep them in your top 50, top 25. So they're sort of in your life when you need them forever.
This is making me laugh because I just remembered years ago, I had this friend I was closer to in my 20s and early 30s and had the pandemic reconnection moment, but it's been a while again. But at one point, she told me that I had made her list of her top 65 closest friends. And I was so baffled because I was like, I appreciate that I'm on the list. 65 closest friends is a lot. I think I'd be hard pressed to think of 65 people that I would go to dinner with without a stretch. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I am blessed with a lot of friends, but I was like 65. So anyways, and we all have our different, I think, ways of aggregating friendship, holding on to friendship, prioritizing, perhaps listing. How do you feel, actually? I've heard some of this going around like friendship advice circles of being so intentional to make a list of your top people so that you don't forget who you want to lean into.
There's merit to that.
A friend list.
But there's also like, I don't know. It also feels kind of, not that there's anything wrong with this. Both of us were in sororities, but it feels sort of sorority to be like, these are my top, this is my rush crush. These are my people. This is who I want in my rush class. Like there's merit to it, but it also like ranking your friends a little bit. But at the same time, it's giving you, if you're coming at it with the intentionality of saying like, these are the top 10 people, I guess I'm going to reframe it for myself. I would use this as a tactic. If for me, it was like, okay, these are my top 10 people. And every week I'm going to check in on the last time I've communicated with them. It's obviously a spreadsheet in my mind in this scenario, Rachel. If that were how I used it, then I would feel really good about it. But if it were like, if I was using it as a MySpace top 8 and like,
I was going to reference that, but I'm like, who remembers the MySpace top 8?
Elder millennials, my friend.
You do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Did we talk about, well, being that I feel like dementia's on the horizon for me, I probably would be well served by writing a list.
Taking creatine, yes or no?
I didn't start creatine yet.
God damn it, Rachel.
Okay. I know. If it's going to help my memory, I really need to do it. I forgot that I needed to remember to take creatine for my memory. But maybe the list wouldn't be the worst thing. Actually, this is kind of funny. I posted an Instagram story yesterday because I found these pens in my drawer that were really funny. It was like, I'm a grown-ass lady. I don't have time for this. They were just pens with funny sayings. And I said, I can't remember who gave this to me.
Okay, good.
I can't remember who gave this to me, but thank you for the morning laugh. And then my college roommate, Heather, sent me a note. She goes, I gave those to you. I was like, I forgot. They were part of my birthday gift. She gave me, her and Amy, who wants to see the video, they gave me a journal and these cute pens and a gift card. But it was so on brand for me to not remember who gave me something really thoughtful and funny. So thank you, Heather. Suffice to say, maybe a list would not be the worst thing. But what I go back to is a friendship expert that I think was on Danielle Robay's podcast. And did we talk about this? The bathtub?
No. I love it already.
She had a theory of friendship based on 3 sizes of bodies of water. So you have your bathtub, you have your jacuzzi, and you have your pool. And your bathtub is the most intimate, important, and central relationship. So say my bathtub is my husband and my sister, and that's who fits in the bathtub. And then your jacuzzi could probably be like 8 people who are really in inner circle, important relationships you're fitting together. And then your pool, I don't know if that's 25, 30 people that certainly matter. Yeah, however many people fit in your pool party. But it was a really interesting and highly visual way to think about where people in your life sit. Are they bathtub, jacuzzi, or pool?
Another way to look at Dunbar's numbers.
Yes. It all goes back to Dunbar.
Everything goes back to Dunbar, like it or not. I did find an article about this, by the way.
Of course you did. Do expound upon.
I shall. I do feel like there was another question I wanted to ask you about the pens, the memory, the bathtub, the pool. We'll find it. Either way. Okay, so there's an article, the creatine, which I'll send you links to. I don't mean to get mad at you and try to force you into this, but So in Time, there's actually an article called How to Make a Long Distance Friendship Work, because we are not the only people asking this question. There are lots of folks who have moved across the country. Actually, we saw like the data showed that the millennial generation was the first generation that was like the most unlikely to move home. So your friendships just tend to become more long distance. They had under 10 tips, but around 10 tips, call it eight or nine. Some of them that we have already talked about are regular catch ups. So scheduling those catch ups, seeing each other when you're in person. But some of the things that they mentioned that I think are really good additions, and I will link to this article in the show notes, but one of them is checking in on communication preference. So yeah, because I hate, this is the millennial Sagittarius in me, but like I hate there are maybe like 5 people whose phone calls I will answer randomly. You're one of them. I would answer your phone call if you called me out of the blue. My husband, my parents, but other people you sort of go like, ooh, what's wrong? So like knowing those things, like, oh, I'm going to call you. Here's a text to let you know so you don't think something's wrong. Do you have communication preferences you would voice to a friend?
I have preferences about everything. I was going to say this for a future one, but one thing that just popped on my radar last night was this idea of, I think it's called the tin can phone. And it reminds me of the article you read about the community that got landlines so that kids could connect. But I'm going to research this. I think the tin can phone is a Wi-Fi enabled phone, so kids can call a pre-approved list of other kids and chat. And I think that in the hierarchy of connection, in person being number one, a phone call is number two. There's an intimacy to live conversation. Even as great as voice notes are, you're monologuing at each other. So while I don't necessarily want to be surprised by a phone call, I do really love the feeling of being bonded and linked with somebody by talking on the phone. And I've really tried to do walk and talks and say, I'm going to take this walk at this time. Are you free? And then I feel like I get the benefit of not being on the phone and kind of being drawn to my computer or feeling like I have to do some task, but I can go walk and be super present and really enjoy that person's company as if we're walking together.
I love that.
And I'm looking at snail mail on here too. And the kids have been sending us snail mail from camp. Oh, I forgot how fun it is to open an envelope and see handwriting and have like a piece of mail that was meant for you. It's so cute.
I know. I'm such like, I'm so resistant to like cards and mail, which is ridiculous because I love to get a card. I love to get a card.
Wait, you're resistant?
I'm resistant to sending it. It's more, and it's not like, it just feels like a rule, Rachel. I hate a rule, but I think
like the thank you notes.
Yeah, like the thank you notes. Yes, exactly. The infamous thank you notes that never were. But I think that if it were more like I'm going to surprise people with a card, I think I would feel really good about that.
I am going to say one more thing about cards and I will drop it. But I think the cards that have stayed in my mind the most are sympathy cards. Actually, the friend where I was on her top 65 list, my grandpa passed away and she sent me a beautiful handwritten sympathy note that I still have. And I thought it was so sensitive and so thoughtful. Some people like to send flowers or food or all these things. All these gestures are appreciated. I love a handwritten card. And I saved all of them, which Ruben is not thrilled about because I have shoeboxes and shoeboxes of cards. But I think that in someone's moment of grief, if you can take a few moments and do a handwritten sympathy card, it means a lot.
So it's so interesting because like my resistance to sending them, like the meaning that cards people have sent to me is so great. So like I have behind me this little like we'll call it an altar, call it a table. I moved out of the way in the video so you can see it, but on it there's literally a box of cards I've gotten over time, and one of them is just like thank you cards people have sent me for. Like every once in a while I'll get a thank you card in the mail from someone from a sweat life, just saying like, thank you for doing what you're doing. And every time that happens, I'm like, what a thoughtful gesture. And then God, I'm an asshole. And then I'll get really misty talking about this, but when I had that surgery, the colon surgery during 2020, I got just piles of like get well soon cards. And I saved all of those because if I ever need a pick me up, I go into that
Yes.
box and I'm like, okay, there are great humans in the world. Fine. I'm going to send some cards.
I don't even know if I ever will look at this boxes of cards again, but maybe my thought is that one day my kids will be like, was my mom a good human? And then they can look at the box of cards.
So I put mine out on my little table with my crystals because I like to be reminded of gratitude. And so it's
Oh,
this like interesting like reminder of like there are good people, there's gratitude in the world because I try to remind myself to be grateful. And that's the physical visual reminder of it.
I love that. They don't need to be in storage. They could live
Yeah.
in your everyday life and you could view them with frequency.
Yeah. Okay, there are 3 more tips that I think are interesting. We don't necessarily need to adopt them, but I think they could be for some people. One of them is creating a shared photo album, which I think is really interesting. And the reason why this tip was given by experts was because in a text message chain, you could text with such frequency that you lose a photo and lose like the meaning of it. But a shared photo album, you leave little notes for the photo. So someone can go back into the album. So it's something that you and your 2 childhood friends could easily do and just add photos as you go and leave a little note about the photo. And then you can come back to it. So you could see like Lisa might have, right? Lisa's one of them.
Yes. Wait, okay. I'm loving this. A Google
Yeah.
shared photo album like you would
You could
create
do
for
Google
vacation.
or Apple or like your
Yes.
Apple shared photo albums.
That's
like
what I
you create
meant.
for, yeah. And like people do for their kids, but you do it for friendship. hmm
That's
So it's
such
just
a good idea.
I thought so too, and I was like, depending on the friendship, it would be a really nice fit because the friends I have who have children who've shared their family photo albums with me, like I might not talk to them for a year, but I'm looking at their family photo albums, and I'm like keeping up with what their kids are doing. Like I see the first day of school, I watch those milestones. You could do the same for
Oh.
friendship.
Okay, this reminded me of I have a singular tip to add to this because I'm a big photo taker and I love to document things. The Time Hop app is
Uh,
amazing because do you have the Time Hop app?
you know what? I don't, but I really need to get back into it. I feel like it had a very big Facebook moment.
It did. So there's this separate app called Time Hop, and my daughter Kayla is obsessed. And so while she's been at camp, I haven't used it as often, but every day she wants to look at Time Hop because it takes any photo or video you have from that day in history as far back as it goes. So like if today's July 18th, anything I've done on July 18th, dating back as many years as I've been taking pictures, should show up linked from Facebook and Instagram and Dropbox and Google Photos. So it's like a repository of your life on that your day in history. And the friendship part of this is invariably really fun old photos will pop up that I had forgotten about from the archives. So I will text because it'll say like 13 years ago today, and I will text it to the person in that photo
Oh,
and be
I
like, do you
love.
remember this bar crawl? Or do you remember this wedding? Or like, I can't believe it's this and this and this. So it actually is a built-in prompt and a reason for me to reach out to people that I'm long distance with and
hmm
reconnect and bond over a shared memory. Thank you, Time Hop.
Oh, that's great. Ugh, okay,
So you should
last
get
two.
it. And then, yes.
I'm on it. I'll get Time Hop sold. Last 2 tips. I mean, they're pretty easy, but still, it makes sense to repeat. Participate in activities together. So those can be things like you could be in a book club together that has like an online moment, or you also could both separately join running clubs so that you're training for something together. You're training for the Berlin Marathon together. Maybe that's your trip. Um, an activity gives you a milestone. And the last tip was to show up for each other's milestones. So, like, obviously, birthdays, weddings, and also sad moments too, funerals.
I
Any,
like your book club idea, by the way. I
Mhm.
think that's really smart that you could stay connected through reading the same thing and discussing it. And it gives you a reason to be in touch beyond just, hey, what's going on with you lately?
Yeah. So, a Sweat Lives book club is interesting because that is the most national piece of our thing that we do of the community. So every month we meet and I love it so much because I get to touch base with, it's usually like 6 to 8 people who show up, but a lot more people are reading. And those 6 to 8 people, we spend probably 15 minutes just catching up. Like you get to hear about like people's work lives, people are moving, having babies, etc. So we catch up, talk about the book, which gives you a real view into people's personalities, and then we talk about what else we're reading. So it's really, it's like a nice way to just get tips, catch up, and have that sort of like medium friendship catch up.
I'm going to put out a future goal that we would have a connection code podcast book club.
Great. Into it.
Yes. Yes.
Into it. All connection based books with a cute little here and there fun fiction mixed in.
Should
Book
we do our show and tell?
I'd like to do show and tell more than anything.
What do you got? What's your show and tell?
Okay, so I brought something easy, close to home, home being Chicago, and close to my heart, and that is my friend Shrina, everybody's friend Shrina. Shrina Amin and Chef Nikolai have opened Class Act Dining, which is now open in Wicker Park, and it is a really social dining experience. Round of applause. I've gotten to try it. Chef Nikolai is incredible. Shrina is just like eye for detail, eye for design. And it's now out to the masses. So the restaurant itself is Class Act. They have a speakeasy called The Nightcap, which really operates in this beautiful sort of craft cocktail space, but also craft mocktail space. But the reason why it's my show and tell is because I feel like Priya Parker herself would go to the restaurant and enjoy it from top to bottom, because it is social. It is curated gathering. It has a time and a place and a meaningful entry. It's just like all of these important things. There are 16 people max at the table. So it just is a very meaningful gathering. And the things that I love gathering wise are you come in and you sort of have a cocktail and your first couple courses, which are almost like past apps, small, standing around sort of highboy tables, cocktail tables in the entryway. And then when you're ready to be seated, the chef comes out and they sort of give you an introduction to what the dinner is going to be, what the cocktail and wine program will be, and then meaningfully open this beautiful swinging door, which reveals this gorgeous table and the kitchen, which is open. Everybody sits. You've sort of already been talking, so it's not that awkward experience of where will I sit. And then just the nature of the shared table is that you're talking. We were there for the friends and family opening, and we were there for more than 3 hours, and there wasn't a lull. It wasn't a lull.
Can we go together?
Yeah. I think we should have, I texted Trina this, but I think we should have a connection code dinner.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good for her. I know, having worked in the restaurant business, how hard it is to get a vision off the ground and open your doors and sustain a restaurant. So I hope everybody goes to Class Act. I want to go, and I applaud her for doing it.
Yay, Shrina. Yeah, go to Class Act. You're going to love it. You'll make friends. Everybody's going to be your friend there. Rachel, what's your show and tell?
My show and tell is Vacation Friends, which is one of my favorite things. So Ruben and I, my husband and I, just got back from this big trip, and we ended our trip in Italy on this beautiful coastal town called Porto Ercole, which I hope I'm saying correctly. And prior to arriving there, we had said to each other, oh, we always love to meet people when we travel, but we haven't really met anybody yet, because the first part of the trip was with family. Then we were in a part of Italy where there was not a lot of English spoken. And so this last place we were staying for 3 nights, we're like, oh, it'd be fun if we met some people. We'd also spent a lot of time together, and I think we were ready for conversation with others. So sure enough, we made vacation friends. And what I love about it, and I think because you appreciate a social experiment, is it's a different classification of friend. Because first of all, you're supremely relaxed. You're out of your element, you have a surplus of time, and maybe not so much to do. So we had this day on our calendar called Day of Leisure. Thank you to our travel agent, Lauren. And so for our Day of Leisure, we just focused on going from breakfast to the pool, down to the sea, and back up again. And invariably, everybody else was doing the same thing. And so you just start talking to people. We asked this one girl, oh, would you mind taking a picture of us? Only to find out that her and I went to college together. And then we knew a couple people in common. And we were in this like remote coastal Italian town being like, oh, wait, you know them too? And so then her husband was a blast. And then Ruben and him are smoking cigars and having spritzes. And like, it was very, very social. And then I met a couple sitting next to me. And so it went to that we had a happy hour and I pulled together 3 other couples and we all sat together and celebrated Jake's 40th birthday. And I just loved it because we'd only met that day, but you have, again, the ability to spend a lot of time with brand new people without sort of the impediments of regular life. And everybody's kind of game to play and they're in a good mood and the drinks are flowing and the weather's beautiful. So we closed out the trip with some new friends. We had dinner our last night with a couple from Dallas. We've stayed in light touch since. And I just think there's something really beautiful about the openness to new people, especially when you're abroad, and being able to make a big world smaller and then sort of like just sprinkle as fairy dust on your vacation of coming home with some relationships that you did not have previously.
I love vacation friends and I love this story. And I also think what this goes to show is there's like a group size that lends itself to making friends. When you were with your family, the group size was probably intimidating to other people, and you were focused on being with family, being with friends, and everything you had on your itinerary. Whereas when it was Ruben and you are around each other all the time. You love having the time together, but you also kind of have an openness. We're here to make friends. I think there's an energy shift in group size. Do you agree?
Yes. And I think my default setting is aggressively friendly. And I just dial that up to an 11 on vacation. So I was giving off a lot of, I'm here to chat. If anybody wants to hang out, let's do it. And fortunately, people seemed receptive to it.
Aggressively friendly.
Now I have full circle. Now they're long distance friends, I suppose. Yes.
So my mom came to visit me when I was studying abroad in Florence. And when she got there, she was texting me on my, back then you couldn't use your iPhone, by the way. This is 2007. You couldn't, you didn't have your iPhone. You had your stupid American phone, and then you had your stupid SIM card for your Italian phone. So my mom is texting me on my Italian phone, or emailing me somehow. She got a hold of me and was basically like, I'm having drinks with my airport friends, because she had, in transferring flights, like she landed in Rome and had to get the train. She met probably like 12 other people who were traveling to Florence. 6 of them ended up being like immediately cool. And she wanted me to meet them. So I went out and met them, and they were incredible. We had probably 2 dinners with them. My parents have since gone to like a baseball game with them in Minnesota. They went to a Twins game. They went to visit them in Atlanta. So just, I think vacation friends can be just a portal into other cities too. Because now when you're in Dallas, are you going to text those friends?
I probably would.
Yeah.
I mean, as I'm sort of ruminating on this, I'm like, Ruben and I have done this repeatedly. Like, we've picked up a lot of casual vacation friends over the years, and I primarily stay in touch with them through Instagram. So I'm like, there are people that I met one time on one vacation where I'm like, oh, they had their first baby, or they just got this new house, or like, oh, did you see they got a new job? So I feel oddly tethered to people that I don't know that well, but we shared a moment in time, and so it is.
There was a woman, and I guess we should have a connection conversation soon, but there was a woman who was at Miraval. I got to Miraval a day early when we were there for our retreat. And there was a woman who was there. She was sort of taking a solo trip at Miraval, and she mentioned she was from St. Louis and they were moving to DC soon. She asked for my Instagram handle. We exchanged handles, and she, since when she was in Chicago, messaged me to meet up. I know, to meet up and get drinks or dinner. And so I love a vacation friend. I love those random, in my own town, I can be the person who shows you around kind of meetups.
Yes. And I also feel like maybe the reason I'm really comfortable doing this is I grew up with a mom that would do it. So I still remember
Yep.
being in line at the San Diego Zoo as like a surly elementary schooler, and my mom in deep conversation with another mom behind her, and my mom being like, I think we're all going to have dinner tonight. And I was like, what? We don't even know them. But somehow I am now my mom, and I am like, Rubes, we're going to have dinner with this couple from Dallas.
Yeah, it happens to us all. We become our mother. It's fine. My mom wants to take care of me through food, and I accept, and I will do that one day as well.
I also think turning into your mom is a beautiful thing because she's a
Yeah.
lovely human being.
Yeah, and I haven't met your mom yet, but I'm certain she is lovely as well because I like you.
Thank you.
Should we
I
have a
can vouch
connection
that she's
Yeah.
exceptional.
What's her
And
sister's name?
my mom is Joanne.
Hello,
Her and my
Joanne.
dad listen to every episode with great enthusiasm.
Have we not talked about this? My grandmother's name was Joanne.
No.
And I don't know many Joannes, and Joanne is a very special. My grandmother was very special to me.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
So
Joanne
therefore,
with no middle
Joanne
name.
with no middle
Yes.
name. Connection conversation?
Let's do it. What would you like to discuss, my friend?
Okay. Well, I want to give you a little update on my connections in Michigan, and we can give a little connection update or a little update on Petite Acres. So
Yes.
we talked a while ago, a couple weeks ago, about how I was going to go about making new friends in a new town where I don't really know that many people. And so I want to share that I have established a couple of places where I am a regular. One of which being Skybird Yoga. It is lovely, lovely. It's this sort of like, I would call it like true yoga. Like the teacher Elizabeth Nudie like shares the tenets of yoga, but also has like a real passion for biology, and everyone is just very friendly on the same wave. Like I wouldn't say probably like a 4 on the aggressive friendliness, but it's like definitely someone will introduce themselves to you in every class. So
Great.
Skybird Yoga is my place where I'm a regular.
I love it. And gym friends can be portals to great outside of gym friends.
Absolutely. So I'm
Fitness to
really gonna
friendship.
work it. Fitness to friendship pipeline is strong.
And then how is Petite Acres coming?
So it is coming. The foundations are poured. Walls will start, or framing of the walls will start next week, which in construction, the words are we're going vertical next week because it's
Ooh.
ground up construction, which is very exciting to say.
Wait, I
And
love that. We're going vertical.
and I just feel like
That's a
that's a
great
phrase
phrase.
we should use that for other parts of life. We're going vertical. But I've been having conversations with a lot of couples who are looking at Petite Acres for their big days and their celebration, which is such a delightful piece of life to be a part of.
Yes, I am so proud of this venture. I'm proud you're going vertical. I can't wait to be there. And you're going to connect so many people on this gorgeous property.
They're camper bust, honestly.
Yes.
I'm exceedingly excited to talk about your connection conversation.
So this is a little bit of an interesting one, but we are diehard fans of the lovely and wonderful Danielle Robay, who is the host of Question Everything, a great podcast. And she just had a pretty blockbuster episode where she did a sit-down interview with Scooter Braun, who has been the subject of a lot of public dialogue and cultural conversation, some of it very negative. And Danielle did a masterful job of guiding this conversation. And the connection aspect to me was that twofold. One, I thought she conducted this interview with such professionalism and was able to receive all the things that he was saying, ask excellent follow-up questions, be connected to him through this dialogue, but also use a little bit of like really good detachment to ensure that she was the question asker and she was trying to elicit really interesting, thoughtful responses. The secondary thing, the connection part was, I thought Scooter was far deeper and more introspective and more thought-provoking than I had initially expected. He went through the Hoffman Institute, which is a really intense, pretty revered program for what would you call it? Like a mental health reset or like, have you heard of this before?
I haven't.
Oh, okay. People who go through Hoffman love to talk about going through Hoffman. I think it is a life-changing experience where you condense a lot of hardcore therapy into a 1 week span. So that comes up as well. But Scooter was pretty raw and candid about the things that he's gone through and the lessons that he's learned and where he sits today. And one of the takeaways for me is that here's somebody who knows, I can't even imagine how many celebrities, how many notable figures. Like this man knows everybody. And the relationships and connections that he kept coming back to, the ones that were critical, the ones that have shaped him, that have sustained him, that he cares about, are family and longtime close friends. I mean, he referenced a friend from when he was 11 years old. And so it reminded me that it doesn't matter how much wealth you accumulate. It doesn't matter how much of a name you are. At the end of the day, your family and your close friends are the things that matter most. And it was just a connection lesson wrapped up in somebody who's had a very big public narrative. So I would recommend highly listening to Question Everything. The Scooter Braun interview, I think, dropped yesterday, and it's a very fascinating conversation.
So I was recommending Danielle's podcast to someone yesterday. And so I saw that episode had dropped and I bookmarked it to listen later. So I'm so glad you brought this up because I immediately was like, interesting. And my face when I said interesting, for those who are just listening, was interested with a side of disgust. Because the way that, like the way that we've sort of come to hear about Scooter Braun is through the lens of like Taylor Swift's Masters, etc. So it's interesting to be a public person.
It is. And I think he's obviously a skillful interview giver, but he does make some fair points, which is that it's easy to be the monster in a narrative when you haven't shared your point of view, and that there are some complexities around the situation. And overnight, he went from being somebody who had a lot of public goodwill to being reduced to a villain in this story. And it happened in a flash. And as somebody who works in PR, I was like, ooh, I could have thought a little more critically about things that might have been happening behind the scenes versus what was being shared publicly, what was leaking, how things were being framed. So I don't have a clear takeaway on all the things that went into Taylor and the Masters and whatnot, but I think you'll get a more complete, complex, and comprehensive look at the man behind it. And I think there's a lot of humility in the changes he's gone through and the things where he's had to reset his own life. So it's a great listen. And he also references the book, Many Lives, Many Masters, which I love, but is kind of a deep cut if you're into spirituality. So I was like, I see you, Scooter.
Well, I think that is also pulling at the thread that I keep coming back to this when it comes to social media, because there are these cultural moments that people get swept up in. Like you and I, Rachel, are sitting on the internet talking to each other the day after the Coldplay affair moment happened in social media. And the internet was full of opinions, full of add-ons and memes and, regram and whatever way that people could spread that story, it spread. And the same thing happened with, Blake Lively. Like everybody felt like because it's happening, because they're a public figure, that they deserve to have an opinion and say it. And I think that we just forget that these people are people. They're actually people. I don't know.
Yes.
You don't have to have an opinion about everything.
Don't we all love to have the clarity of the good guy and the bad guy? It helps us, I think, wrap our heads around and rest easier of, I'm rooting for this and I'm in opposition to that. But this interview, again, just made me sit back and think, you need to take into account the fullness of somebody. And not everybody's fully innocent. Not everybody's fully guilty. Like, motives have to be examined. We were only getting a slice of it. And we'll never get the full pie. But to his credit, Danielle asked some very probing questions, and I felt as though he showed up with pretty good answers and did not skirt things that he might have been tempted to.
I think that's the only way he could do an interview, honestly. Well, that's
Kudos
fantastic.
to her for getting the interview. Yes.
Well, who would say no to her? Who would say no
She's
to her?
the best.
Yeah, she's the best. Should we wrap it up? Or is there anything else you want to add about Scooter or our connection conversation?
I'm just happy that as we enter our long distance era with frequent Chicago visits, that I think we are going to be just fine.
I really do too. I really do too. I took a walk with you the other day. We sweat our face off and we had the best time.
Yes. So I think that goes back to it. Just make time for friendships that matter, carve it out in your daily life, and the relationship can continue to thrive.
Amazing. Well, this has been another episode of The Connection Code, a podcast about friends, connections, work, and everything in between. It's the production of two friends who sometimes are in the same place and are sometimes long distance. Rachel Gilman, Ben, excuse me as I do that again. I'm just going to do the whole outro again. This has been an episode of The Connection Code, a podcast about friends, connections, and work, and everything in between. This podcast is a production of two friends, Rachel Gilman Rachel and Jeana Anderson Cohen. That's me. You can follow us on Instagram using our full names. Find us on LinkedIn with our full names as well. We would love to hear from you in either place. And if you've got a connection you'd like to make, we want to help you do it. Thanks for listening. And thanks to Ben Cleaver for editing this podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye.